Welcome everybody to Bitcoin Milwaukee. Our weekly meetup today is February 27th, 2014. And joining us tonight is Jaron from Coinsetter. And he's here to talk to us and you out there in YouTube land about what's going on with MtGox and his reactions and how he's securing his exchange, Coinsetter. And thank you, Jaron, for joining us. Go ahead and tell us where do we start? Where do we start tonight?
Hey guys, first of all, thanks for having me back. I don't know what to really talk about. Did anything happen in Bitcoin this week? Not quite sure. It's definitely been a crazy week for us. The MtGox fallout, I think, was far worse than anyone would have guessed. And now, news stories of, there potentially being tens of thousands of Bitcoins there or more. That's just going to be a whole saga. To me, it's just pretty unreal what kind of lack of clarity is coming from the management there at MtGox. But, it's been a long time that people have known that odd things were happening there, and it sucks that you look at a lot of people who newly get into Bitcoin and up until even still recently, MtGox is the most commonly cited Bitcoin exchange, and they were the #1 search result, despite the fact that their Google search result was, usually if you go to Coinsetter, you'll see Coinsetter trade Bitcoin with reliability, something like that. MtGox said MtGox is loading on the Google search. So, there were a lot of things that were odd, but unfortunately a lot of people kept putting money in there. And so, this week has been pretty unusual where, potentially all of their Bitcoins are gone. And an even stranger thing, if it could be stranger than that, is like not even all of their cash is accounted for. So we don't even know where that went. And so, there were serious problems in their accounting system. And I think as people dig deeper and deeper into what was happening, and we're still in the first inning of figuring that out. But it seems like the whole system was just pretty much hacked together, and it's unfortunate because the one thing that people always felt good about with MtGox is, despite how bad their marketing was, how bad their customer support was, how bad everything they did was, you couldn't even get USD withdrawals, but their Bitcoin security was always top-notch and #1. And now we've seen that wasn't even true. And looking at the kind of internal consulting strategy plan that came out this week, there's just no thought about the customer. There's no, they're just trying to figure out how are we going to switch this into gox.com and continue running what we've built. And so I think it's really unfortunate, everything that's happened.
Jaron, I have a question. You mentioned odd things coming out of MtGox for a long time now, several months, maybe even a couple of, a year and a half or more. Could you mentioned one, like their Google search result thing, but mention any others that you're willing to share? And then also, people did keep sending money there, including some of the most influential, prominent, smart Bitcoin profiles. I'm thinking, I know Charlie Shrem had some money in there. I know there were a couple other, Eric Voorhees, some folks who still did business with them despite all these warning signs. Mention some of the odd things and then talk about why even some of the most trusted names in Bitcoin still decided to trust this exchange.
My guess, it's really hard to say. I know I've met all of those guys, and I know that they care about Bitcoin security. So it is surprising, but it's a little speculation here, but I'm pretty sure whatever Eric Voorhees lost in MtGox was a pretty small % of his overall holdings. So it really sucks, and it was a lot of money. Like I have 550 BTC, I think, and that's life changing for a lot of people. But you know, I think it's hard to say why I was in there. I'm guessing this had small trading accounts. But you know, one thing I never really believed the whole time, and not to say that I wasn't speaking out about this, so I'm not any sort of like genius or savior, but you know, the whole time, you know, we've been pretty intimately involved with regulation and banking, and their bank is supporting them, and they were able to get out a certain amount of withdrawals every day. And I've met people who were pulling out dollars out of MtGox, and so, you know, it's a very strange thing, but I would imagine that they actually had the capability to pull out, to really create a system in a year's time that allowed people to get, you know, quick bank transfers out of their bank account, and I believe they chose not to. So you know, it's one of those things that was always kind of in the back of my mind. But now when you see, you know, their dollars aren't accounted for, all of their bitcoins are gone, and you know, Jesse Powell wrote a really great blog article last night about you know, his experience, and I think he had, you know, some speculative items on maybe the progress that this whole thing took, but it made a lot of sense to me. So I think, you know, people have sort of pieced the pieces together. They were running. One of my problems I have is I wish people would stop calling it fractional reserve something, because when we try to correlate what fractional reserve banking is into what happened at MtGox, they're very different things. It sort of angers me because, you know, it's a very vague term, and it actually doesn't describe the situation. I think it would be much better to call this some sort of like complete hack and fraud to customers, or just insolvency is the correct term. So you know, I don't know that as people are starting to call it there's a big, and actually one of the things I'll tell you about is kind of how this has affected us this week, but you know, as people there's a movement that needs to happen, and it has to do with exchange transparency. The wrong word would be to lead that movement is fractional reserve, and that's what I see a lot of people online really starting to use. What needs to be emphasized is really we need a new system of verifying to a reasonable degree through cryptographic means that assets exist in a system, and while maintaining privacy. And so, you know, things we're looking at, you know, we're beginning an internal audit. You know, that'll take us probably 2 or 3 weeks to really go through our books. Hopefully a lot less. So that'll be our first step. Our second step is, you know, we're hopefully in the near term we'll be able to hire an external auditing firm. We'll see how long that takes, because they may need time to really ramp up on their Bitcoin capabilities. I have, you know, our reserves are much lower than what Bitstamp or MtGox has, so we're going to have an easier time really accounting for this. It actually should be a pretty quick exercise for us. But you know, I think what we would like to do is, we're looking at how can we on an ongoing basis disclose information to the public, and that will likely be balances, potentially deposits and withdrawals over a period, and so forth. And we're, you know, anyone who has great suggestions, we're looking for 2 types of suggestions. Email me at Jaron@Coinsetter.com. But you know, we're kind of looking for ways besides that. So that's kind of the old world, and it kind of works. But you know, we would really like to find better means through cryptographic means that, just to give you an example, you know, we haven't yet priced out to go get a top 5 accounting firm to put their stamp and do an audit of us, but that is not going to be a cheap endeavor, and in fact it's almost an impossible endeavor for most startups. I would love to see a solution come out of this that involves cryptographic technology that, and there was one, I forget the core dev's name offhand, but there was one solution that had at least elements of a solution that could work, and it has to do with if customers can go in and check their account balance versus a hash that they have and keys. But I don't know if that specific solution solves all the problems, but I would really like to see something along those lines. So, that's what we want to do. If anyone kind of comes across anything that I think really innovates on disclosures and what an exchange can do, please reach out to us. And that's something I'm personally spending a lot of time on. I think people will be able to gain a lot of confidence from our audit just to begin with. And but I see this as being more important than just here and now, because in a month or maybe 3 months, this won't be the issue that people care about anymore. But it's an issue that that needs to be changed, because you think about why Bitcoin exists, and people have gotten really excited about Bitcoin and some of the other cryptographic technologies because they completely remove the need for a third party. So you hear a lot of people talking about trustless exchanges and things along those lines. But anytime fiat's involved, that just can't happen. So you're always going to have, unless a technology is developed that fixes this, you're always going to have a problem where you have these trusted third-party exchanges, such as Coinsetter. So what I would like to see happen is, Coinsetter and companies like ourselves develop new technologies that allow us to prove to people that the assets are really there. So on the most simple level, this is a terrible solution, but just to give you an example, the most simple solution would be to say we have $1 million in deposits, and here we have $1 million worth of Bitcoin. So let's just say 1,000 BTC in Bitcoin. We have 1,000 Bitcoin in deposits, and then you move them. You've proved it, or you do something similar to that. That wouldn't really be a secure solution, but I would love to see something like that evolve.
That's kind of, at least from what I gather from some of the other prominent voices in the Bitcoin community, like Andreas Antonopoulos visited Coinbase, right, and did an independent audit of, I don't know if it was their reserves, but he basically did what you just described. He had them send a transaction from their reserve cold wallet accounts and prove that they had what they had and was satisfied. So that instills a lot of confidence, and I just want to commend him and many others in the Bitcoin community who have gone above and beyond what the Call of Duty would be traditionally to reinstill confidence in the Bitcoin consumers out there and even in the bystanders and observers. So I guess, I'd like to hear, I think everyone else, at least in our room here, would like to know, what has your week been like? As this news unfolded and you're a CEO of an exchange in America, what's your week been like? Tell me, can you walk us through a little bit of day by day as things broke, what you guys went through?
Yeah. Well, I haven't slept much, and I can't believe it's Thursday. So, I think the news broke out maybe Monday night, possibly Tuesday night, but let's just say Monday. The news broke out. We were immediately, I was in bed, about to go to sleep, and we saw the announcement made by 5 or 6 of the companies in the space. First of all, I was just like, why the fuck wasn't I on that? But after understanding that was out there, we wanted to make an equally strong message to all of our users and other people in the space. so we released that night a statement. We made statements throughout the week in a lot of the major publications, the Wall Street Journal, Reuters, and whatnot. And all of that is it's a rush, but it's also very difficult because in the end we don't know everything about the situation yet, and we need to comment on a company. Normally, I actually would probably refrain. Just to give you an example, I haven't commented at all on the Charlie Shrem situation. It's not to say that I take a positive view of any of that, but that to me seemed like a situation where you don't kick someone while they're down, and I made the decision not to comment on it. But you look at the MtGox situation, and there's such an extreme level of negligence and just psychopathic behavior that I felt it very important that Coinsetter not only stand out for what we believe in, but also really take a strong approach towards explaining to reporters who contact us and are trying to figure out what the hell is going on, because they're just as clueless as the rest of us at the beginning. Really trying to explain to them in very clear and candid terms what has happened and why the largest exchange, how this could possibly happen. And so, frankly, I didn't have any money on MtGox, but I'm just so angry at the situation because when you're holding other people's funds, you should feel a responsibility to protect those funds. And we at Coinsetter, when we make a mistake, we do our best to refund the customer all that we can. We always try to come up with a fair solution for that situation. And this is the complete opposite of that, where you've grown to a level over years in your mind where you start to say, where it starts to be okay in your mind that you're operating something that's unsustainable and going to destroy everyone who's a part of it down the road.
So you mentioned, the way you've handled some of the mistakes that surely come along with a startup and, a fledgling industry and stuff like that. Can you divulge a little bit more about what those were and how you handled those? I mean, you kind of briefly touched on it, but juxtapose that with the way we've seen MtGox address some of the, what we've come to call doxings. 5 or 6 of them now in the history of this business. Talk a little bit about that. What are some of the mistakes that you've seen happen in as a young business yourself with Coinsetter, and what you've seen with the way the behavior coming out of MtGox when they have mistakes?
Yeah. Well, the good news is in terms of these mistakes, we've approached the we've fixed 99% of these kinds of issues, but other exchanges that come out are going to have a big problem, and the problem is going to be that no product launches perfectly, and even products that have been around for 2 years have bugs. And so when you're dealing with people's money, that just to begin with adds complexity to issues you have. So if Facebook is down for a while, by the way, our website is, if you try to access it, maybe wait 30 minutes because we're in a maintenance window pushing a bunch of updates. But if your website is down for a day, or you have a trade error, that's going to be a big one with a lot of these exchanges that come out who are built by people who haven't built Wall Street level platforms in the past. I mean, you can have all sorts of trade errors. Like, weird stuff can happen in these systems, and in the end, it means that someone else lost money. And so you really need to find and fix these bugs as soon as possible. And so I think that's one of the toughest parts is building an exchange when you're dealing with people's money, and you have to have a sense of fairness. And you saw it on BTC today. Like, I don't know too much about the situation, but it sounded like, you know, the price dropped to 100 in one of their trading platforms, and maybe their leverage platform, and you know, a bunch of people had stop orders, stop limits, and stop losses, and didn't get filled on those, so they experienced huge losses. And BTCE came out and said, you know, we would love to make up for it, but we can't because it would, you know, bankrupt us essentially. So you know, those are very real issues, and you're going to see those from different companies in the space. We're obviously working very hard to get rid of those, like, as soon as possible. We do a lot of testing, like, to an annoying, like, if you're an entrepreneur, the amount of testing we do is like painful because it pushes back any sort of product launch. But it's really important, and you start to see that more and more as you look at your surroundings, as you look at bugs that may have been in your platform and wouldn't have been caught if you didn't kind of have that type of focus. So it's a difficult balance. And then, you know, I would say, you know, that's only going to get tougher because right now we're currently unregulated. But when you become regulated and you face issues like that, I mean, there are very, very large penalties. So it's going to be really tough for companies that are coming out 2 years from now. I would really encourage people to, like, I'm kind of lucky because I got in and started a company at a time when creating this trusted third-party institution, like, there was a window to create that company. Now I really see the need as being like people who can provide services to exchanges that secure Bitcoins, create transparency in a very innovative way, not just analyzing shit, like really looking at these new cryptographic technologies that have come out and saying, how can we pair that with an asset and then make sure that it's always there. And then if you do it that way, you're also not limiting yourself to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. I mean, this stuff should be spreading across Wall Street. Never again should we have a bailout. And so I think we're in a very exciting and interesting period where people are going to come up with these technologies. People have been painfully hurt in the Mt. Gox scenario, and a lot of these people are great developers. They're very intelligent people, and I think that we're going to see a lot of ideas coming out over the next few weeks. And you know, at Coinsetter, we're going to be waiting for those and looking to hopefully be able to incorporate those into our platform.
Cool. Speaking of, you know, you mentioned regulation. I wanted to get a quick thought from you on the BIT license in general, being in an exchange based in New York. And then we have a question from one of our members about regulation too. So I'll bring him up, but give us your thoughts on the BIT license and what that, you know, is that an obstacle or benefit? How do you guys see that?
It's both. It's a huge obstacle right now. We have to grow a business on limited capital. Now, granted, we're better off than a lot of companies in the space, but you know, we have to grow our company on limited capital in a time when, you know, I think the biggest fear right now is not the fact that we're an unregulated entity. It's the fear that when regulation comes, we're going to get slapped with penalties that we don't deserve. And you know, we've specifically taken, I mean, one of the biggest complaints we have about our platform is that we don't offer full exchange of Bitcoin. And we have a bank, and we don't allow people to make transfers to it. And you know, that's, you know, painful as a startup to operate in that environment, and then know that even though you're doing that, your competitors, you could even get the same fine as some of your competitors. And there is another company operating in the U.S. right now that is accepting bank transfers illegally, and you know, they're able to grow their business, and you know, we're doing things the way we feel comfortable with and the way we think is right, and but you know, it's painful to watch you know, one of your competitors really open up their business and, you know, potentially you know, have that be a successful strategy that you didn't do because You were too risk averse on that. And so,
to deposit, I was going to say, so to deposit on Coinsetter, I can only deposit Bitcoin. Is that correct?
Right. And I think there is a value proposition there. I historically bought all my Bitcoins on Coinbase and then traded them elsewhere. I think Coinsetter is a great platform to do that on. So anyone who wants to trade price swings, we're it. One thing, I can't really promise a timeline on this, but I think we are, of many things, like, in 4 to 5 weeks, we're going to release our Fix API that really turns us into a plug-and-play option for Wall Street institutions, serious traders. After that, I think it's very likely that we'll build a MetaTrader bridge to that, so we'll be able to offer MetaTrader trading. Things like that already provide value that I think a lot of people will find valuable. And one thing that I have promised in the past and we haven't been able to deliver on, and we still might not be able to deliver on, but I think we're really starting to get back to looking at how we can implement margin in the next 3 months. So that's a possibility. And at that point, yeah, me too. And that's going to be a challenge for us too, because in the end we have a little bit of capital we can use to enable margin trading, but really what we're going to have to do once it hits the $1 million+ mark, in order to enable longs, we're going to have $1 million backing that. Getting back to the challenges and topic of this week, but we're going to have money backing that. And so if you look at the Forex industry, the Forex industry is dominated by the banks who just lend to themselves. It's very easy to provide the leverage they do. For us, our focus really wouldn't be on leverage at all. It would be on providing a shorting market, and it would be providing an extra turn of long. So like if you make a Bitcoin deposit, you have margins that you can go long. So that's exciting for us because we can completely bypass the bank system altogether. And frankly, anyone who has Bitcoin, as I hope everyone there does, like you guys already know that like if given the option to buy Bitcoin via bank transfer or a Bitcoin transfer, you're always going to choose the Bitcoin transfer. Granted, you might have sensitivities to margin risk, so that would be the only caveat there. But I just, anytime I send money internationally now, I always hope it's in Bitcoin because it's it's just so much better.
We have a lot of, I guess, success stories of people making their remittances or international transfers of any kind using Bitcoin, and how that overcame major obstacles for them in their lives, and that's certainly preferable for all of us here. I wanted to get a quick answer from you, just to get back to MtGox. Generally, we had a question from a texted question from an audience member out in YouTube land. Is the death of MtGox a final thing, and is it a good thing? And then I'll have another question for you.
Cool. Yes to both. I will be surprised if they don't go to jail, and it angers me that Karpeles is, out in not responding to reporter requests, but responding over IRC chat, and telling people that he's going to keep going on. And granted, he's probably the only one who knows how to recover any of these Bitcoins, so we're going to need him for that. But it's just it's psychotic. No one should be after everything that's happened. He should not be allowed to handle anyone's funds. And call me on the pro-government side of Bitcoin, because I'm really not. I'm secretly a libertarian, but there needs to be something that happens that causes him never to be able to manage anyone's funds ever again. So I think that's an issue, because new people come into this space all the time. 60% of our traffic is always new people. So, they don't know us from any other company in the space. They don't know how long we've been here. They don't know who I am. And nor should they. They're just finding out about it now. So this is a serious problem to me. And the fact that they were looking at this to just think that they could change it to gox.com and everyone forget is things have always been bad, but they've gotten to such a bad point that I don't see there could be a return even from a customer standpoint. But I strongly believe that governments are going to intervene in this. This is a serious issue.
It's I hate to say this because I really feel for the folks who are wrapped by this fraud basically that has taken place. But Andreas Antonopoulos commonly comments about the clownishness of what's been going on there, and often when I read statements out of Mt. Gox, I'm humming, that whole little thing, and it's like so much of it is just so confusing and amateurish. It's appalling. So, well, we're rooting for guys like you and Jesse Powell and others. But I have one question from one of our members, Chris, our trumpet player and Litecoin mining extraordinaire. He's got a question for you, Jaron.
Cool.
Well, hey, Jaron. Not so much a question, more just like your thoughts about, like you had mentioned bailouts, and I guess the conventional wisdom still holds that when if we didn't bail out the banks back in 2008, the economy would have crashed and the U.S. dollar and all this stuff. And I guess what we're kind of faced with, maybe it's a stretch to make a similar comparison, but Mt. Gox, that's the first, I guess, big exchange, big bank, and nobody bailed them out, and it looks like the Bitcoin economy is still kind of going forward. Maybe took a big hit, but it seems to be going forward. I just want to know your thoughts on that, and what.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't see this as a bailout situation, even though it was part of Mt. Gox's recovery plan. What I would like to see happen. So, is there too big to fail? Probably on some level. I don't, thinking about the financial crisis, I couldn't say like what would have happened otherwise. We obviously have huge problems in our country. So, I mean, inflation will come. We have a massive debt, and these might not be affecting most people yet, but they will. So whatever.
It almost seems like Mt. Gox is, we can talk a lot about Mt. Gox and their clownish behaviors and everything like that, but it almost seems like what they're doing is kids play, compared to what, typical banks are doing.
Compared to what was done by so many other major regular banking institutions.
Still being done.
Yes and no, guys. I mean, the scale overall was larger on Wall Street, yes. But this really came down to one or two people at Mt. Gox. I would equate this more to like the Bernie Madoff scandal. I actually think there are huge similarities. I strongly believe that they either knew they were running a Ponzi scheme for a long time, or they didn't know, and then a month ago they realized that they have no more Bitcoins left when they tried to refill their hot wallet, and then they've been running it for a month. But at some point they've been lying to everyone, and I believe it's been going on for a long time. Very strongly related to the Madoff situation. The banking sector is a much more complex topic. So while I see that we can draw similarities, I'm not sure that it's that cut and dry. I think that I mean, it's probably a 2-hour conversation in and of itself, but what happened on Wall Street wasn't necessarily a Ponzi scheme, or it was probably a bit of misrepresentation, but just to give you the other side of that, Dodd-Frank is pretty much closing every single possibility for companies in our space and other spaces I certainly believe in the future to operate. So if Dodd-Frank didn't exist, we would actually be accepting customer deposits today, and it would be legal. Dodd-Frank, though, in addition to the Bank Secrecy Act and everything that has happened over the last 10 years has caused banks to have, and you're seeing this reflected now. So, banks now are paying billions of dollars in legal fees, and they're paying billions of dollars in fines to the government for money laundering cases. And banks have, it's not that they're risk averse, it's that the banking laws have become so restrictive. You can't just say, well, we're not regulated. Like you would very much have to prove that unregulated would be a bad word to say to a bank. Don't say that because you're not going to get a bank account. What you have to say is you operate in a space that isn't subject to any laws, and I have a no action letter or an approval letter from the CFTC or the SEC or the state Department of Financial Services. Like, that's a very extreme thing because regulators don't give those letters out. And when they do, it's not given out lightly. So no one in the Bitcoin space, hardly anyone in the Bitcoin space gets them. When they do, it's from FinCEN, which would not be the same. And so it, looking at the current situation of society, I mean, I just think it's tough. Like I sometimes question whether Uber would even be able to get a bank account today because they were an unlicensed taxi business in every city that they operate in. So, these are reasons why I become increasingly passionate about Bitcoin. I believe other people over time will become increasingly passionate about Bitcoin, and it might not just be Bitcoin, but I believe that everything you and I are doing right now is very important, and it is going to impact the world. And we are on the early end of understanding a lot of the implications of laws that have been enacted over the very recent years. And in 10 years, people will be thanking us that we created this ecosystem. So but it just to add, I mean, it's just so tough to operate, and it really has to do with Dodd-Frank, and Dodd-Frank was a response to the financial crisis, and all of this is just a big rolling ball, and I'm not sure it's heading in the right direction.
Well, it's I think a lot of us here, anyone who's watching Bitcoin and seeing the ease at which this system operates, juxtaposed with the incredible clunkiness, the arcane nature of regulation and other just slow, moving institutions that obviously Bitcoin is poised to disrupt. There's Senator Joe Manchin calling for a ban on Bitcoin. Clearly, limited understanding of the technology to make such a claim. What do you make of that? And I just want to get your thoughts on how can that still be part of the conversation after the hearings that have taken place since November in D.C. and in New York last month? How can folks out there with such a microphone still, I don't know, feel unashamed about putting their ignorance on display? I mean, give us your feedback on his suggestion, I guess, and just what you think about that.
Yeah, well, let's consider this my public invitation to the senator for a CNBC debate. But a lot of people in politics say things because they want to get headlines and they want to be elected again. I think that's what this is. So, as you said, he very obviously has a very limited understanding of Bitcoin. He hasn't spoken out about it before this, and he's now entering the race or the arena at the time where it's most convenient for him. So I don't think that people will remember what he said even a month from now. Nobody will care. and everything that we're doing and fighting for will make an impact. So I say let him say what he wants to say, and we should all just brush it off.
Do you get, being in the position you're in, do you get people from, not subpoenas or things like that, but do you get people calling you up, from the bureaucracies, the regulation bodies out there, seeking your advice or delivering threats, or do they even contact you at all?
Yeah, well, I was happy to wake up this morning and not get a subpoena, because some days you'll wake up and reporters will know things before you do. So last time when we won't maybe disclose whether or not we got a subpoena in the New York State subpoena issuance 6 months ago, or I don't know how long it was at this point, but hypothetically, if we had been part of that, they would have sent it to my wrong address, they would have sent it to the wrong company, they would have sent it to a lot of wrong things, and I would have gotten a call from a Wall Street Journal reporter asking me if it's true, and I had no clue what they were talking about. So, that's not a fun situation to be a part of, and I really hate, like, when Charlie, when that whole, event happened, I was also flying back from Miami, and I read this, and I got like 5 texts, 10 emails, are you okay? And that's like really scary stuff. Like anytime I go on a plane now, I'm pretty much afraid, even though, like, you could look at our platform there, there is absolutely no way to money launder through our non-deliverable derivative of Bitcoin that we offer. But, and on top of all the AML and KYC we do, but I still get scared to go to the airport because, who knows what kind of information people are saying behind your back before they make allegations on you. So, and I'm speaking for myself and not for that situation, but it becomes very scary. So, a day like today, it's the exact same thing. Had a reporter contact me, have you received this? And it's like, well, I hope not, but last time they sent it to my parents' address in Las Vegas, so God, who knows if I got one or not. So I don't know, you just try to do things the right way. You try to be reasonable, and you try to align yourself with people who are doing the same and hope for the best. And that's about all you can do. And then you work your ass off. So that's what we do. Like, everyone's here at 9 p.m. working. They could be at home having a lot more fun. Although I say we have a pretty cool work environment here, but it's just something that we're passionate about. We really believe that we're doing something important, and I think that for our company, there's an increasing sense of it. So, maybe in the early days, there was a lot of fear, and but for me, I've had to learn so much about regulation, so much about law, so much about banking. Like, it's surprising. Like, even last week, I learned so much about banking. And it's like, how many years did I have to work in investment banking, other finance, start this company, read nonstop articles about banking to still be learning last week. So, it's pretty, that's an exciting part of the job. But just learning all that stuff, it really informs you into a lot of the issues that are consequences of a lot of the BSA, getting back to BSA and Dodd-Frank, rules, laws, regulations that have come out, and it's something that you become very passionate about, and it's something that we're trying to fight against, but we'd like to fight against it with technology at the very minimum.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're behind you. I wanted to ask you maybe 2 more questions, and then we'll let you go. Thanks for joining us tonight. And I'm sure the viewers out there in internet world, thank you too. With Charlie's case, I know there's probably not much you can share about that or whatever. But he was on the Let's Talk Bitcoin podcast recently, and very candid with Adam, recounting things as the news was breaking this past week. At the end of all of that, and I encourage folks to go listen to that. It's good stuff. But at the end of it, there's still optimism in him as much as he's facing, and certainly the the fate that might lie before him. There's still tons of optimism here among us too, and I'm hoping so in New York with a lot of us don't like to even talk about regulation and all of that, but certainly the bit license development could have some nice consequences, some positive consequences for businesses in New York, and we want to see Coinsetter have a banking partner, of course. I'm sure you do too. Can you share with us what we can expect maybe in the near term with this fallout situation, and as it pertains to Bitcoin as a whole, and also in the near term with regard to Coinbase and some of the things you guys are working on beyond features, with like the partnerships you need to grow?
Sure. I think for the next few weeks, companies will be thinking hard about what systems you can implement to internally, most important to internally make sure that you have customer funds and can feel really secure about that, and that your accounting systems as you scale, work. And that's another thing. A lot of people are building exchanges right now, and some of these exchanges are going to have really, really terrible accounting. And that's going to cause major problems when they have their first audit, and maybe they have the Bitcoins, but they're going to have a tough time figuring out whose are whose. So that's an issue. But I think at first you're going to see companies really looking at how can we account internally, and more so audit your books. I think you're going to companies are going to be very focused on looking for what technologies are available and easily we can actually implement them into our system in a timely manner. Because if it's going to take us 6 months, then it's just not feasible. So looking at how can we make small steps towards proving these reserves to people in a new way. And beyond that, I think there's definitely a race to the U.S. So it's going to be, I still think it's going to be a while before the bit license comes out. When that does, it's going to be an absolute race to get them. And the first people who will win will be companies with bank accounts, such as ourselves. But it doesn't mean we'll get the license first. There's no guarantee of this. I think that the companies that are most well-backed, are most credible, have great management, those are the ones that are going to do great. The ones that really focus on a customer. So are you retail? Are you institutional? Those are the exchanges that I think will be successful. Ones who can really know who they are. That's always tough, by the way. If you start a company, and then I don't think adding features wins per se, but features will be a big one. Who can create a futures and options market, and I'll talk to you guys about that next time because I've dug into it pretty heavily. But who can do that? Who can add, zero confirmation deposits. Rough time to be mentioning that, but zero confirmation deposits and 10-second transfers in a secure way. Those technologies are really important to allowing Bitcoin to become a real payment network. So I think we'll see, or maybe Ripple and open transactions will become dominant because people, opinions change, or who knows. So it's really hard to predict the future. I think we can say that there will be Bitcoin exchanges. One thing I think you see is investors for the past year that I've spoken to them, it's always the same conversation. A lot of them are kind of like, is anything happening in Bitcoin? Is anything cool emerging? And it's always the same thing. And little by little, I don't know that you need to see cool things emerge in Bitcoin. Hopefully it happens someday. But I think what we all need to remember is Bitcoin isn't Facebook. So Facebook is a cool media platform to connect with friends. And Bitcoin is something that can change the financial system. And I think as long as people kind of focus on using Bitcoin in a way that does change the financial system in a positive way, those are people who will create successful companies. BitLicense is going to speed that process because as more and more people have access to Bitcoins and more retailers feel comfortable accepting it, that's going to be very, very world changing for everyone. I think you're going to see more merchants offer discounts for using Bitcoin. You're going to see probably card companies come up that offer discount programs as well. And then also, one of the biggest problems with buying online is if you're not getting a discount via Bitcoin, you actually lose money because with your credit card you would have been able to make some points. And so people who can create those kinds of programs, that'll be very interesting. But it's all coming step by step. So it didn't feel like it, but we've all made a lot of progress in a year. And I think when you look at the 5-year time horizon, Bitcoin, we wrote an article about Bitcoin ATMs today and how that actually has more consumer protection than any option out there on the market. And people constantly hate on Bitcoin ATMs, and it all these things that the regulators are so concerned with trusted third parties, and you can get rid of them completely just by enabling Bitcoin ATMs. And the Bitcoin ATM operators have done it in a very intelligent way. Like their KYC on some of them is pretty legit, and convenient, quick, easy. So I realize that the privacy people might not love this, but people who are looking for all the other things that Bitcoin has to offer, I think that it's great.
Yeah, the privacy people can still achieve their wishes without using ATMs. They can still access Bitcoin. So I don't see that going away. I mean, that it may be driven underground more with a heavy-handed treatment that maybe Senator Joe Manchin would like to see. But yeah, it's I don't know. The optimism is still palpable around here, and even though some of the press is so negative and malinformed, I guess this would be my last question, and then tell us anything else you'd like to share before we say goodbye. But the local press in lots of smaller towns, like our town, for example. I mean, the metro area of Milwaukee is about 1 million people. The city of Milwaukee is a little over 500,000. But all the local press coverage of our group and of Bitcoin in general has been positive. Of course, they discuss they touch on the risks and some of the salacious headline-grabbing news or whatever, but it's been relatively positive. Are you seeing? I know how aggressive the New York media is, having lived there for 4 years, not too long ago. Has it been a positive treatment? I've seen a big shift in the tone in the last 6 months in terms of media coverage. Have you seen more positive coverage in New York, or is it still kind of the page 6 or the back page of the Post type of treatment?
What I've seen is more intelligent coverage and also more fair coverage. So the articles you read now versus what they were a year ago. A year ago, none of the reporters at the major publications knew anything about Bitcoin. They were completely clueless. And so we were explaining things to them that were very basic, but they're busy people. They have a million things to cover, so they're not digging into a lot of the details we are. So it's very difficult to explain things beyond kind of an elementary, childish level. But as Bitcoin, frankly I thought Bitcoin, it was just going to kind of go like this in the news, and it always come down. And since like maybe August, it kind of went like this, and then it's just always been there. And TechCrunch, they're covering regulation now, regarding Bitcoin, and I mean, it's crazy. It doesn't seem to be going anywhere. So, I think that it's just pretty exciting. But yeah, the media coverage has gotten much more intelligent in there, and I think that that's important, because then people can really learn new things about Bitcoin. It's not just like a tabloid. It's not just Silk Road over and over again with no substance. What you really see is media that little by little people can get to know Bitcoin more.
Yeah. So I don't know how much we have Matt Miller from Bloomberg to thank for that, but I'm continually impressed by how objective and he puts a lot of effort into fact-based reporting, and even cutting off his co-anchors to inject or correct them, or inject the facts into the coverage. Yeah, I just wanted to mention I'm grateful for his work, but
yeah, and Carter Doherty is also
Jaron,
heading up their Bitcoin Now, and he's been doing a great job as well. Bloomberg has done such a good job on really putting resources towards putting resources that are dedicated to the space.
Yeah. Well, we wish you the best of luck, and we're excited to continue using your platform, and keep having you come back whenever you're able, and whenever the headlines bear, let's say. Hopefully for a good reason, and not for like we've had the past week or two. But leave us with your outgoing message here, and maybe share with us and other folks who are active in the community or in their local Bitcoin community how we can continue to support the space. Give us your opinion on that, and then thanks again for joining us.
Sure. Hey, well, first of all, thanks again for inviting me, listening to me, and asking questions. It's always fun to do these kinds of things. I encourage everyone to, if you're an entrepreneur, now's the time to go do it. Go start your company, and I'm here to help. Email me. If you're a Bitcoin enthusiast, really just keep doing what you're doing. Get other people on board. Bitcoin is so important, and I think at this point it's important not just to understand Bitcoin, because frankly Bitcoin might just become a payment network. Who knows? But I think you're looking at a lot of other cryptographic issues that are coming out, or issues that are coming out with solutions through cryptography, and it's nice if we can have a real movement that's continuously supporting the advancements of this technology. So, I think the obvious one, which we've spoken about quite a bit tonight, is how can we create cryptographic systems that prove assets, and that's something that it's amazing. A year ago, we weren't really thinking about this, but it's just so necessary, and every Wall Street institution should be using that 10 years from now. So I say let's all keep pushing forward. Coinsetter is here to support you in any way we can.
Thanks so much, Jaron, and let those guys go home tonight, maybe.
We'll see if the platform's back online better than ever.
Yeah, well, we're looking forward to continue using it, and we'll have you back very soon. Stay in touch with us, and I'll encourage everybody to stay in touch with you too. Can I give out your email?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Jaron at coinsetter.com. If you have questions, or I know he offered a lot of suggestions and openness here, so feel free to reach out. Thanks again, Jaron, so much, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Thanks a lot.